Okay, everybody, this is my spoiler review of episode 1 of Wednesday. Wednesday's Child is Full of Woe. I'm going to be doing every episode this season, but please keep in mind, I'm not going to be talking about episodes after this. I'm going episode by episode, no spoilers, so you can watch these reviews as a little companion piece when you're going through the show yourself on Netflix. I hope you enjoy. But this episode titled Wednesday's Child is Full of Woe is actually where the name of Wednesday came from originally. It came from a rhyme that was Monday's Child, and a line in it was Wednesday's Child is full of woe. It's strange, though, that Morticia in this episode will reference Wednesday's Child full of woe as the nursery rhyme's title, but it's not actually accurate. It's actually called Monday's Child, so be it. But I was really excited about this show. First off, if you've watched my reviews, I've been calling Jenna Ortega was going to be a superstar one day. She's had the skills since the beginning, and this is the biggest role of her life, and she of course delivers. But I was also super excited about Tim Burton doing his debut directing in television. He directs the first 4 episodes of the show, so he directs the opener, and it's written by the showrunners Alfred Goff and Miles Miller, and we get to hear the theme song done by Danny Elfman, which I loved, and he also does most of the score. So you really get that Tim Burton, Danny Elfman combo in TV, which is really cool. So I love that when we first see Wednesday, she is at Nancy Reagan High School. This is a current school she's going to, but remember, she's gone through so many schools already in the past couple years. A lot of this episode we saw in the trailers and teasers, which kind of maybe affect the shock value or how interesting it can be. But putting that aside, it's still great. And I love that she finds Pugsley tied up in this locker, touches him, but we get this reveal that she's getting visions, and she gets the vision of these water polo bullies throwing him in the locker. And we learn she just recently started getting these visions, which is important. And she gets this great line, "The only person who gets to torture my brother is me," while looking at these bullies. And I love the smirk Jenna Ortega does here, and then lets the piranhas into the pool like we saw in the trailer. But it's a great opening of the show to set the stage and the mood for the show and what's going to happen to Wednesday. It's like a mini prequel, that first scene, because it is her getting expelled from that school. What I love too about the opening credits, not only the music, but I like they show her cello, they show piranha plants, and we get to see a guillotine chopping off a doll's head, which she'll reference in the episode she's done in the past, and that's so with the character and all the iterations of her. So we get to see some of the Addams family. When they're in this car, we see Morticia played by Catherine Zeta-Jones and Gomez played by Luis Guzman, and they're singing In Dreams to each other by Roy Orbison, which I loved, and we get a glimpse at Lurch here driving the car. Now we'll learn Morticia was the captain of the fencing team, queen of the dark prom, president of the Seance Society at the school Nevermore that she's going to, so you see that Wednesday is following in her parents' footsteps, which she doesn't really want to do. And some of the writing here was a little wonky for my taste. I didn't like that when Wednesday said, "I have no interest in following your footsteps." She then just names all the things Morticia's done, like I just named off, like fencing team, queen of the dark prom. Not natural writing. They gotta tighten that up a bit, or maybe show it a different way. But already some great lines for Wednesday when Morticia says the boy was going to file attempted murder charges. And she's like, "How would that look on your record?" And Wednesday says, "Terrible. Everyone would know I failed to get the job done." That was great. And then they already start brewing the mystery early, which I like. So we see this hiker outside the woods gets mauled by a mysterious creature we don't see yet till later in the episode. And then we get to see Nevermore, which looks amazing. It almost reminds me of a mini Hogwarts. And the way they're doing the world building I really like, but also the vibes of the show already is giving me a lot of Harry Potter vibes and certain feel to it, but also even storylines, especially because Harry Potter, Hermione, and Ron themselves are also in very similar situations where they're going through a school, going through teen troubles, but also trying to solve mysteries. So we also meet Principal Weems here, who's played by Gwendoline Christie, you know, obviously from Game of Thrones and Sandman recently. And we learned that Weems and Morticia were roommates. So a lot of this information, we're learning a lot of new characters, getting some quick intros, but it's all going to be important stuff for sure as the season goes on. And little things to learn more and more about Wednesday. Like, again, she's been in 8 different schools in 5 years, but she also has perfect grades. And she's been given court-ordered therapy sessions. I like this connection they're constantly doing thematically with Wednesday to Morticia, and the theme of this relationships that's going to drive home, hopefully, the rest of this show. And then you see she's literally put in her mother's old dorm room, and that's when we meet her roommate, Anita Sinclair. Total opposite of Wednesday, super colorful. I love the whole space of this dorm room. I think it looks amazing, and I will get to this later, but I love how they split that glass in half with the black and white and the colorful part. And it says a lot about Wednesday's character, because that's what Wednesday is, right? The black and white, but she didn't take over the other girl's side of the room. She still respected her space. But this is where Wednesday will talk to Enid and say that this is just a long plan by her parents for her to be a version of themselves, which you can clearly see she doesn't want to be. And then we learn about the cliques in the school. And the four main cliques, Enid says, are the Fangs, Furs, Stoners, and Scales. I like how they went through these so we can learn about them and not too much heavy exposition, but enough to kind of get the gist of what's happening. I like the line when she talks about the Fangs, where they're vampires, some here for decades. Nice little touch about vampires there. What I didn't like, though, is when she introduced the Furs. She says they're werewolves like me, but we didn't need the howling when they were looking at the camera. That felt very, like, Twilight vibe and tone to me. Did not like that corny, too teeny boppy. Now, the Scales, we see are sirens. That's where we're going to meet Bianca Barclay. She is the queen bee. And Wednesday will refer to her that later on. And we learn she also dates Xavier. And I like that the Stoners are actually Gorgons and they're stoning people and get stoned themselves. So I thought that was great. And it's cool when we meet Ajax. A little bit of that snake comes out of his hat, which is a nice touch. And another great Wednesday line is when Enid says, you really should get on TikTok, Snapchat, Insta. And Wednesday's like, I find social media to be a soul-sucking void of meaningless affirmation. So I do like their getting certain trends, the way Enid talks. It can relate, again, to the younger generation, who this is mostly going to target, but it's still really funny and using a character like Wednesday in a way that's believable in the current times today. Now, I see Morticia when she says goodbye to Wednesday. She's like, you're a brilliant girl, Wednesday, but sometimes you get in your own way. Important lines like this, which will be themes probably as the season goes on, I'm imagining. And she says, I'm sure you'll grow to love Nevermore and find it as life-changing as I did. We'll probably see this will be the turn by Wednesday eventually. So she gives her a necklace with the initials M, but flips to W for Wednesday. It's made of obsidian, which Aztec priests used to conjure visions, symbol of our connection, she says. So the mom clearly knows deep down what's going on with Wednesday, that she's experiencing something she has herself, which are these visions. And this is where Wednesday says to her, I am not you, mother. I will never fall in love or be a housewife or have a family. This is good, too, to have this kind of being a conflict for Wednesday and herself, not wanting to be in that typical lifestyle for people. And it's relatable to today and how people might feel when they're especially growing up, and expectations of society on us. And now, my favorite thing about this episode was they leave Thing to keep an eye on her. And Thing looks amazing, and it's amazing how well it works in this show. I think literally my favorite moment so far, just this episode, is everything going on with Thing and Wednesday. So then we see, though, with this mystery brewing, that the man in the woods was attacked, completely mutilated, and that there was 2 attacks before this. So the sheriff believes the murders are connected to something or someone at Nevermore. But again, I love this dorm room. I love how visual it looks with the half black and white and the colorful side with Enid. I like that they show she's writing on a typewriter. It's just perfect for Wednesday. That she needs an hour a day to her novel. And I love she disses Enid's vlog. Again, taking something so old school like a Wednesday Addams character, an old school thing she does like using a typewriter, but mixing it with Enid talking about doing a vlog. I think it really works and kind of is the tone of this show, having those two worlds collide. Really like Netflix colliding with the Addams family property in a sense. So now Christina Ricci comes in, the former Wednesday from the films, who is incredible as Wednesday, and an incredible actress having such a comeback these past couple years, especially with Yellow Jackets. Make sure to check that out if you're a Christina Ricci fan. But she plays Miss Thornhill, who is the dorm mom, and she's already mysterious, right? She comes in with these very muddy boots, and she's like, sorry wasn't here to greet you and arrived. So she's definitely suspect number 1 for me with whatever's going on with this monster, especially because Christina Ricci's playing her. So it makes you think she's going to be something very significant than they're actually letting on in this show. And that, again, she wasn't there when she arrived, so where was she? That's always a suspicious line to throw to someone. But she warns them that the locals in the town near them, Jericho, are very weary about Nevermore students, and that, again, they really look at them as outcasts. So she's like, tone it down when you're over there. So I like, too, they're developing that world building, but also that where you're in the school of all these outcasts, and that just stepping out for them is a challenge, and how different it is with they call normies. And like I said, I think this just relates a lot to today, and how people feel like outcasts will refer to normal people like normies, and I think it just kind of is very relatable. Now, in all the great Wednesday outfits here, my favorite might be her in this all-black fencing outfit, just badass, and she challenges Bianca after seeing her how cocky Bianca is, and how she was putting down Rowan. And she challenged her to a duel with no masks, and winner is the one who draws first blood. Just kind of strange that the teacher was fine with this, but whatever. But one of my favorite cuts and faces Jenna Ortega's made so far is when they cut to the Band-Aid putting put on her, and her face is just priceless there. And Rowan says he didn't think it was possible to be an outcast in a school of outcasts, which is basically something Wednesday's totally relating to in that moment. So we see this gargoyle statue almost falls and kills Wednesday, and that's when Xavier pushes her out of the way and saves her. And then we see when she's talking to him about it, she's like, yeah, well, I was thinking at least I'll have an imaginative death. I thought that was another great line. But we learn that Xavier has met Wednesday before and that she saved him before when he accidentally got in his godmother's casket. So that's going to be something that's going to be fascinating with the Xavier character and how much he already knows about Wednesday. So when she's in her writing time, she catches Thing pretty quickly, which I loved, and he was trying to hide in the bed, and then she gets him to plead loyalty to him, and he bends his fingers. Was great. It's like this twisted, dark version of SpongeBob and Gary, this relationship. So he's flipped from spying on her, now totally caving into her after she threatened him, and he's just going to help her whatever she needs, like trying to get out of the school. Now you see how interested Weems is in Wednesday, especially to the point where she drives her to her therapist, Dr. Kimbot, but she stays there. Like, she's literally like, I'm here so you don't run away. So it also makes Weems suspicious. Now the therapist, played by Ricci Lindholm, who is a great comedic actress. I interviewed her like 2 years ago and she was so nice, but happy she's getting a part like this. But she's saying the sessions are confidential. A line, again, you can't trust classically with therapists. Usually means it's not being confidential. She could be someone leaking information about Wednesday. But the therapist brings up the novels Wednesday has wrote about this girl, Detective Viper. She's like, Viper is smart, perceptive, chronically misunderstood, which is obviously Wednesday. This is why she's writing it, the character, that way. And it's also what the show is. This is the vibe of the show we're already getting, that it is this detective story. And I love, one of my favorite moments, I almost want as much of this as we can get to make it more macabre and really get our Wednesday Addams fix, is her sending the editor who rejected her book a mousetrap. That was great. And she says, I've always been open to constructive criticism. And you see too, like I was talking about with how important that relationship with Morticia is going to be, the therapist highlights the relationship of the Viper and her mom in the book. So she wants to dig into that, and that's just a hint the show will dig into that. Now, Wednesday escapes out of the bathroom window, does this like fireman pole drop down, and bumps into a farmer and gets another vision, but this is of him dying in a car accident and breaking his neck. Now, if people are wondering why didn't she go help him, it's to me just because she wasn't really faithful in believing her visions totally yet. So she like hesitated, and you'll see that will change when she gets her vision later on, her reaction, which we'll get to. So in the meantime, she meets the character of Tyler at this coffee shop. Now, he's played by Hunter Dewin, who, if you've seen my Your Honor reviews, he was a star of that show with Bryan Cranston, and I always said he was a really good actor. People didn't like his character. I still thought he was a great actor, and I still think he's a great actor. But why on earth is Hunter doing this voice that's like this? He's just doing this deep voice that isn't his real voice. I don't understand that character choice. It's really taking me out of it. I don't think a lot of people will be affected by it because they're not familiar with his work or seen any interviews he's done. But I'm familiar with his work. I've seen his interviews, so it's really taking me out of it. I don't like it. But I do like she mentioned she had a steam power guillotine, and it helped her decapitate her dolls more efficiently. It was great. And I love when these bullies come in the pilgrim outfits from Jericho. She calls out just pilgrims and the lore of pilgrims in general and how hypocritical it all is, and gets to do some kung fu in this. And it's great because that's a nice little throw to the original Wednesday from the TV series, because she knew judo. And she says Uncle Fester taught her because he was a prisoner in a monastery for 5 years, which was great. So then we get a twist of events where we learn the sheriff is Tyler's father, Sheriff Galpin, and he brings up also this other twist that Gomez should be behind bars for murder. So adding more mystery and us learning about Wednesday's family. So we'll see Wednesday did see this man die, which is gonna now make her really believe in her visions and the responsibility that will come with her as just making choices as a person, a human being. And I love the paint of black on the cello here. I love she's actually just shredding on this thing on the balcony. The balcony part looks amazing. The set is just incredible, and the lighting is perfect, and it's so Tim Burton, it's not even funny. Also, what's important is Wednesday is just, we know she's perceptive. She's observing that Enid is not wolfing out with the other wolves under the moon, and she can only release her claws. So she's talking about her mom thinks she's a late bloomer, and that if she doesn't eventually wolf out, she becomes a lone wolf. And she's like, I could die alone, and is worried about this, Enid. But this is where Wednesday says a great line. We all die alone in the end, Enid. And she's like, haven't you ever cried? Enid said. And that's when we get the story of 6-year-old Wednesday who had a pet scorpion, Nero, and took him out for an afternoon stroll. And this traumatic thing happens where the bullies run it over. And we see little Wednesday crying at her grave. But which is cool about this is we got our first glimpse at the Addams family house. And she says, tears don't fix anything. Why I vow to never do it again. I'm going to bet the house now that we will see Wednesday cry by the end of this season for sure, just hearing that line. And then I also like that Thing appears to Tyler now, and he just throws the bat out of Tyler's hand. That was great. And he's there, so Tyler calls Wednesday, and I like that they're staying true to the character where she doesn't use technology, so she's typing with one finger. And he calls her his pet, and he gives him the finger, which was great. So they're trying to mess with you and who's people you can trust and can't trust. Literally, a need suggests that maybe you can't trust this normie talking about Tyler. You also see Principal is watching Wednesday intently at this carnival. But then Tyler shows some trust here because he gives Wednesday the Gomez police report. And she says, I'm not used to people engaging with me. And he eventually just says, you're kooky. And she's like, I prefer spooky. So nice little throw to the lyrics of the classic theme song. And I thought it was really cool visually with them booking it here from the bullies at this carnival and the fireworks behind them. But this is where she knocks into Rowan. And you see these flashes and these visions. And it's before we see Rowan getting mutilated by the beast in the vision that we see this fountain on fire. And it looks a lot like the picture that Wednesday's been given by him later on, so you wonder, are we going to see some kind of fire scene at the end of the show? But you see the difference is Wednesday made the choice now, knowing her visions are pretty accurate, to go run and save Rowan. It's interesting, though, that Xavier's watching this happen as well, again adding to suspicious behavior by a lot of characters. But you see Rowan throws her up on the tree, and he's like, I am saving everyone from you. I have to kill you. We learned that he was the one who pushed the gargoyle onto her. And he's like, my mother drew the picture 25 years ago at Nevermore. She was a student there. She will destroy the school and everyone in it, is what his mother warned him about Wednesday. And that is the moment when this beast appears and actually saves Wednesday in the process. So to me, it means whoever this beast is or working with the beast knows Wednesday and likes Wednesday. And the best way to end this premiere I loved was having Gomez and Morticia appear in the crystal ball and like, how you doing, honey, at school? And she's like, I narrowly avoided death twice, discovered my father may be a murderer, learning I could potentially destroy the school, and saved by a homicidal monster. You were right, mother. I think I'm going to love it here. What a great way to end the episode and get you pumped for what's going to happen this season. So for me, I am giving this episode an 8.7. I thought it was a very solid premiere. I'm excited to see where it goes. It's going to be interesting to see how they keep up a story with Wednesday Addams. It's the biggest challenge because she's a character with so little emotion and has these very different views of the world. So we'll see how they evolve the character, how to make it still true to the Wednesday Addams we know, but giving a little twist and more modern today. It looks like they're doing a great job so far. So this episode gives me a lot of hope. But let me know what you thought of this episode down below. No spoilers for future episodes, please. This is just for people who have just watched episode 1 to enjoy it. And that's what I'm going to do for each review for this. And you can keep watching my reviews. I'll have them all out today, so check that out. Please follow me at Steve Varley Show on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok for more of me. Please become a subscriber if you enjoy this. I'm going to really put my all into this show. I'm very, very excited about it, so stay on board with me, and I'll see you next time.